everybody? Welcome to another week's The Live Life Aggressively show. Sincere Hogan. Not Hogan, but I actually have a first name. Sincere. You know, for those who may have been a little confused after the last episode, like, wait a minute, I thought his name was Sincere. So have I been getting it wrong all this time? No, you have not. I have a first name.
Dr. Mark Gordon was doing that too. He goes, is Hogan going to be joining us?
I mean, that sounds exactly like old high school coach right there. Hogan. So, yeah, man. And also got my co-host Mike Marlowe on the other line. What's up?
I'm doing good, man. I'm coming off a fun weekend. I saw Slayer at the Joint in Las Vegas with my good friend Dave Gunter. That was fun. Slayer always brings out, you want to talk about fun people watching. And the place was packed, man. The line to get in was so long that we just went and had a couple drinks at the bar for an hour and a half before even trying to enter the venue. But what's funny is we're walking down the hallway, and I had this Nails t-shirt on. Nails is a hardcore thrash metal band. Anyway, it's a cool shirt, so you often get stopped whenever I wear it. People go, oh, where do you get that? So there's one Eastern European guy comes up to me, drunk off his ass, and I hate talking to drunk people. They're so fucking annoying. But anyway, this guy, from what I could gather, he was saying, where do you get that shirt? And I told him where to get it. And then I walked off. And then he goes, hey, man, don't walk away from me like I'm a piece of garbage. You know? And I was like, what are you talking about, man? I told you where to get the shirt. What do you want? And then Dave, my friend Dave Gunter, is like, I think he wants to buy your shirt. I was like, well, look, dude, I'm not going to take my shirt off here and sell it to you, motherfucker. Okay? That's not happening. And then it's one of those things where, like, you're talking to a drunk guy. And you get your point across, and then he just has this befuddled look because it's taking him an extra 10 seconds to process what you just
right.
said. I just said what I had to say, looked him dead in the eye, and then like 10 seconds later it registered. He's like, oh, okay. I was like, Jesus. I was like, why do I always pull these people out whenever I go anywhere, man? But it was a fun show. It's interesting because the first time I ever heard Slayer, I was in 7th grade. You know, I was 13 years old, 12, 13. And I would have thought that at 42 I would still be listening to them, and that at 42 they'd still be performing and still be drawing a lot of
42
people.
They're still alive.
Yeah, exactly. These guys have got to be, some of them have to be pushing 60, and I tell you what, they still sound great, and the place was packed. So there's something to be said about staying loyal to your audience. And what I mean by that is a lot of bands they just sold out, frankly. You know, they made music that got them on the map, and then they just sold out to try to get a bigger audience, and then they lost their original audience. Slayer never sold out. Yeah, Slayer never sold out. No matter what trends were going on, Slayer was always Slayer. And as a result, 30 years later, they still have a huge following, and they can sell out the Joint. I've seen Linkin Park at the same venue, and there were more people for Slayer than Linkin Park. So it's pretty impressive.
Yeah. And also, they kind of came through during a time where, you know, you actually had fans who were actually loyal to the group. Whereas this day, you know, in this day and age, man, there are so many groups that come and go. Right. It's hard for fans to even be loyal if they want it to be, because once they find a group that they really, really like and, hey, man, I'm going to go just support these guys, blah, blah, they're gone. Yeah. You know, or they were a manufactured group in the first place. They weren't even a real group. There were they went and handpicked all these kids, or they all won off some TV show, some reality show, and they threw them together, and then they're gone. And then everybody's kind of like, well, what the hell happened? So now a lot of fans in today's age, they don't want to get attached to someone. It's kind of they're like foster groups. It's like, you know, let's not get attached to that group because they're going to end up going away anyway.
They make group makes one record and then that's it. So it's like, why bother? It's
exactly.
Like you got invested in this band and then they never toured, they never made another record. Then you move on to the next.
That's the kind of thing that's what pissed me off, like with the Velvet Revolvers and the Audio Slave. Right. It's like, okay, this is a really good concept. It's a really good group. And then, you know, you had, you know, like Scott Weiland couldn't get his stuff together, you know, for Velvet Revolver. So you kind of like, damn, you know, you kind of feel bad for Slash. Like, you just can't get it right with your lead singers, man.
Well, you know, the problem is with these super groups is you tend to have these big egocentric personalities coming together. Right?
Exactly.
So now you have 4 people with huge egos coming together into a band, and everyone wants to do it a certain way. Plus, let's just be honest, I'm surprised any band stays together, to tell you the truth, because you have 4 people. Yeah, that's what hurts you have 4 people trying
They're not even organically friends or anything like that. They kind of just put together. Whereas at least with a band, some of you probably have known each other since elementary school or, you know, daycare or something like this. So you kind of know that person. You kind of know, like, I already knew this guy was an asshole, but hey, I've known him all my life. You know, so, you know, we were friends before all this other stuff. So that's why they can kind of survive.
That's right.
You know, throughout everything, break up and, you know, go without making an album for 20 years and come back together. Like, you know what? Look. we were friends before all this, and we're broke right now. We need a tour.
Right.
So they can do that. Where a super group, they don't really know each other. They've come up, they've met on the road here and there, or, may have actually toured with their respective groups together. And then that's about all they know about each other. So, of course, it's going to be combustible. It's kind of like a blind date. Like, what do you expect when somebody just sets you up with someone? You don't expect to just be magic right off the bat. Like, oh, my God, we're in love. Like, what do you really know about this person?
Yeah, super group's like an arranged marriage.
Exactly. Exactly.
I can't think of one. Yeah, I can't think of one super group that has lasted, let's say, 10 years even. 5 years even. They usually, like you said, they come out hot and everyone's excited and then they're gone. And then usually the people that are in it go back to whatever bands they were in before the super group. Exactly. It kind of scares them straight, right? They're like, you know what? I thought that was bad, but now that I've done this, shit, that wasn't that bad. You've seen it happen with everyone. Like Chris Cornell went back to Soundgarden, which I knew would happen after Audioslave imploded.
Yeah, I mean, Scott Weiland tried to go back to Stone Temple Pilots. Again, you kind of go back to the devils
Right.
It's like, well, they know I'm a fuck up, and they've accepted me all these years, instead of these guys. And Slash like, look, dude, I already have one
even
and there's another example right there.
Yeah,
Guns
exactly.
N' Roses.
Even they have finally gotten together because they realize how much money they're missing out on by not touring together.
Yeah.
Now Guns N' Roses is going from doing shows at the Joint, where I saw Slayer, which is at 3,000 capacity, to playing at the Las Vegas Arena, which is I think 20,000 or something, and they're going to sell that out easily. They're going to do a mini tour in big arenas. Yeah, so that's all true.
Even that supergroup thing, it doesn't even really work in the fitness world.
No, I was about to say the same thing. I mean, you could look at the fitness world and say the same thing. There's so many different organizations that have imploded because of personality types just clashing. It's just human nature.
This guy's big in this arena. Let's bring him into our organization. Oh, he's big over here with Olympic lifting. Let's bring him in. He's big in wrestling. Let's bring this guy in.
Well, you try to team up. Sometimes you're like, okay, I'm a big kettlebell guy, so let me go team up with someone who's big in some other aspect of training, and then you might have one course that works out well, and everyone wants to see more, and maybe you put another one together, and that's a pain in the ass. You're like, forget it. I've promoted a lot of courses, so I can definitely speak to that. There's just so many factors that go into it. Sometimes you get along with the people, but you end up doing a lot more work, and it's an unfair situation where people are getting paid a lot. I've done a lot of courses where, let's be blunt, I did all the promotion. I got all the people in the room. Other people went along for the ride. And they're like, oh, this is great. Let's do another one. I was like, yeah, I'm sure you want to do another one, motherfucker, because you didn't do jack shit for this one. You just showed up. You're like, this is great. I showed up. I made more than I ever make on my own courses. I was like, yeah, because someone else did all the work to make sure that you got paid well, So again, it's all. But anyway, I could go on that tangent forever. Yeah. We have a great guest today, Jake Shannon. We've blabbed on for a lot, so we'll do the shout-outs at the end of the episode. You guys know who you are. Just keep buying the products. You need recognition.
If you don't know who you are, just look for the receipt in your email.
You're not doing it for recognition on the show. You're doing it because you want to support us and buy some great products. But anyway, we have a really cool guy. I've known him for a long time. We were just talking before we started recording. I've known him for over 10 years. We met up in L.A. a couple times. His name is Jake Shannon. He runs scientificwrestling.com. He's the inventor of the Macebell, which is a really cool training device. He does a lot of work with Josh Barnett. Scientific Wrestling is also the leading professional association for catch-as-catch-can wrestlers. Yeah. So he's got a lot of great information on his website. So how you doing, man? Welcome.
Hey, thanks a ton, guys. No, I'm actually sorry to interrupt. I was like totally fascinated with the rock and roll conversation.
Oh, we can keep talking if you want to kick back for a little bit.
Well, the thing that was the most shocking, though, the thing that was the most shocking part of that entire conversation that you guys had was the fact that you were wearing a shirt that wasn't the Cro-Mags.
I need to go back to wearing Cro-Mags because Cro-Mags are so old that no one recognizes the shirts, that no one tries to harass me for getting the shirt off me. I got to stop wearing these contemporary band shirts that people recognize.
Well, I mean, it is funny that you say that because, God, man, it has been 10 years since we were both in Southern California and doing our thing and stuff. So
yeah, I remember you started the Macebell back in. And for people who don't know what a Macebell is, imagine a club bell had sex with a kettlebell, and then and then their offspring is
well endowed.
Yeah, exactly. Imagine a club bell that's about twice as long as a regular club bell with a big old kettlebell at the very end.
It's like you take a kettlebell and strip off the curved handle and put on it's like a bowling ball with a broomstick, but it's actually, an ancient Hindu training device for wrestlers.
Yeah, Gama the wrestler was famous for using that, right? He used really heavy ones too.
Oh yeah, the Pelawani, and I mean it goes not just it's Persian and Hindu, but the wrestlers in particular would use these implements, when they weren't doing a sport specific exercise like actually wrestling or drilling or something like that, but they were wanting to do something that could benefit them without necessarily getting their wrist broken or something like that can happen in a wrestling match.
Right.
They bust these things out, and they're very similar to kettlebells, although the movements are completely different, but it's similar. It's grip strength.
Yeah, you're not going to swing one of those between your feet.
Yeah.
What's your Shaq?
yeah, exactly. Shaq could do double swings with macebells, that's for sure. So what makes a macebell different than, let's say, a club bell?
Well, yeah, a lot of it has to do with the length. So, for example, the club bell was an idea that originally came from Iranian meals, or in India they're called joris, which are the clubs. I mean, they're these clubs. It's like what you used to see the Iron Sheik swing on the old WWF 1980s TV show. And they're very similar. It's just the club bells obviously are manufactured made of steel. Well, in that way,
the Indian clubs are big wooden ones, right?
Yeah,
they're huge, and the movements are different than what we see people do with club bells, just because of the sheer mass of them.
Absolutely, and in fact, I got the idea to do the mace bell because a friend of mine, an older gentleman who's passed away and was really well known in wrestling circles, both amateur and MMA and pro wrestling, even Karl Gotch.
Right.
Over, and he, I was excited. I wanted to see his clubs because I was interested. And he's like, "Oh, well, let me show you this thing." And he pulls out this wooden, looks like a bowling ball on a stick. And he's like, and this is after he ran me through like one of his brutal workouts. I mean, my legs are jelly. I'm like puking. And in fact, I hadn't even eaten that day. And before the workout, he's like, "Oh, here, have this sweet plum wine. Oh, here, let's smoke a cigar." And I have no idea. I have no idea we're going to work out later.
Smoke a cigar and then go do 500 Hindu squats.
Oh my God. It was like traumatic, dude. And then afterwards he hands me this freaking device, this bowling ball on a stick. And I have all my gross motor skills are just shot. And I'm like an idiot trying not to break this thing because it's made of wood. But it was really exciting. It was I was like, holy shit, this is a really neat way to train. And so I just, when I got back home after that trip, I was like, how am I going to do this? I started looking up woodworkers. I was like, I got to do it just like his. And Karl gave me his specifications and stuff. I was like, cool. And I went to a woodworker, and it was like, he wanted something ridiculous, like $250, $300. And I was like, I just was like, okay, that's cool, but I think I can do this cheaper. And so I started looking into other materials and shopping around, and then I ended up just talking to Torque Athletic. And, if people don't know who they are, they've, been around the kettlebell scene.
Yeah, they made the kettlebells for Dragon Door. They made the club bells for Scott Sonnen. So they're a very well-respected equipment manufacturing company.
And they're the first people that bring all this stuff to the masses. Then everybody copies them, and that's fine. I mean, that's business. But
right.
They really, if it wasn't for Torque, who knows what people would be doing, because they put these devices in people's hands actually so they can
great people who run that company too. I remember I had
Otis
really
awesome.
Cool guy. I remember he reached out to me a couple times to see if I had any ideas for making equipment, and I didn't have any, man. I didn't want to make something for the sake of making something. It's like I actually have to be using something and benefiting from it rather than going, let me come up with something.
Yeah, like for me, it was very similar because I was kind of like, well, I just want this for myself, frankly. But I do have a bit of a sense for business, and I was like, well, geez, I cannot be the only one who would want this. And I talked to Torque and showed him some of the old Hindu footage and stuff, and And he was just so stoked. And here we are 10 years later and a bajillion different YouTube videos later of everybody swinging it. And I mean, Joe
certifications
Rogan,
and everything else.
Joe Rogan's got his own mace that he put. I mean, it's blown my mind.
Yeah, on it makes their own. Do they get theirs from Torque? Do you know, or do they?
No, they manufacture their own. So On It makes one.
And because this is something that existed already, this wasn't something that you could patent necessarily, right? So anyone can make a Macebell, or maybe they can't call it a Macebell, but they can make.
I don't like all the patent stuff and
sure.
So to me, you know this, man. There's people, especially in this kind of business, that are just such like anal jerks looking to sue you or do it. I'm like,
oh yeah.
Wait. I'm like, you know what? I don't have to worry personally because I will always come up with ideas. I'm a creative person, and if people rip my stuff off, to me that's like cool. I'm like, sweet. I'm glad you like my idea.
Yeah, it's a compliment.
I'm glad that you can put food on the table for your family with my idea. Maybe you could give me credit, maybe not, whatever. I don't care, but hey, it's just cool because I think it's cool and I want to make it available. And that's kind of just the story of the Macebell. And that's the story of my wrestling business too. I just started out wanting this information and wanting to learn these things myself. And then I was like, I can't be the only one. And heck, man, some of these guys that I'm learning from are these old timers, and, old athletes don't have pensions unless you're like, you luck out or you're in, play big ball or something like that. But for like a lot of fighting athletes and stuff, there's no pension, and these guys misspent their money early on. So anyway, it just worked out where I could learn it myself, put money in these old timers' pockets, and I don't know.
And who made money off wrestling anyway, right? Amateur wrestling, exactly. Wrestling competitions.
And when we say wrestling, folks, we're not talking WWE or something like that. Not wrestling entertainment, which is way different. But we're talking about like wrestling in a traditional sense here. And again, like Mike said, who really made money off of that? I mean, how many folks can you just name right off the bat? If you're not really into that, who can you just name right off the bat as far as the legends of that? Like those of us in the know, when you say Karl Gotch, we're like, well, you can't even talk, you can't have this discussion without bringing him up.
Well, and especially in MMA circles, because, like that fight between Muhammad Ali and Antonio Inoki. Karl, if you look at the photos, it's actually a really cool kind of thing. Because, I mean, here you have, like, Muhammad Ali, this massive icon in America. And then you have Inoki, who was like a flippin' senator in Japan. This guy's huge. I mean, he's like the Japanese Jesus over there or something. And then you look in the corner of the fight, and the guy's cornering Inoki. It's Karl Gotch, it's Fujiwara, it's these like dudes that I know. It's like, whoa, that is just crazy. And then the ref was Judo Gene LaBelle. So
yeah, exactly.
It's just, I mean, that's a really interesting fight. But like, especially in the MMA world, people would know Karl. But that's just my thing. And I mean, I don't begrudge people, but I do know certain people in the business that are, oh, that's my idea, and if you even use the word, oh my gosh, and it's like,
there's a lot of people like that, and they're not even people that there are people that are ripping off other people too. The thing about people that have that paranoia about people ripping them off, they have that paranoia because they've ripped off other people themselves.
Exactly.
That's where that whole fear manifests from.
I mean, I don't mind getting credit. I if you want to give me credit for doing something and it's real, and hell, I'm the first person to be like, yeah, I did that. That's cool.
Well, I mean, you definitely should get credit for proliferating the Macebell or that training tool. No doubt about that.
And the other thing is that, I spoke about the wood, and, I was like, well, if I change the material here from wood to steel, it's going to be a hell of a lot more durable. And, I've always been into these kind of more esoteric sports, and like the Highland Games. If you look at the Scottish hammer toss, it is the exact same specifications as the 10K Macebell. So if you're also a Highland Games athlete, you could be using the 10 kilo Macebell for practice. They won't allow it because it's not regulation. You got to have it out of specific materials. But the good news is it won't break because it's made out of steel. You can chuck that thing halfway down a football field and it won't break.
Yeah. And you can also use it for sledgehammer strikes, right? Tire strikes. So sledgehammer tires.
Right. Yeah, that was the other thing. So I kind of looked at it as like a 3 a three-way vehicle, for working out, that you could do the traditional Gata Hindu exercises, but then you could also use it in the Highland Games, and then you could also use it for, anything that you would use a sledgehammer for. The thing is, and I mean, to all my competitors out there, because I really don't care. I mean, the only thing I'd say is if you're going to make these Macebells, make sure you get the handles long enough. Almost everybody makes them too short because it's all about the centrifugal force.
Yeah.
It's the length of the handle. Right. You got to make it longer. Anyway.
They're probably trying to make it easier so it's more accessible, but then that defeats the whole purpose of it.
And it makes it harder, to be honest, because if you're doing it, if it's a longer handle, it's more centrifugal force, and therefore more of the workout is in the grip.
Well, maybe it's cheap. Maybe it's cheaper to make it shorter, and that's the real reason.
Oh, yeah.
Because you kind of shorten the momentum as you swing it, by having it with a shorter handle. So it almost becomes an Indian club, so it just changed the whole dynamics of what you're using it for at that point.
That's exactly right. Like, I mean, I see a lot of these guys making them. And it's cool. I have no idea why they picked their lengths or whatever, but the point of it, at least for me, was as a wrestler, I want grip strength. I want when I grab that guy's wrist that he knows it, and he's not going to pull it away because I need to do some work here. I need to work on this arm or whatever, and so anyway, the length really does create that kind of centrifugal force that makes the grip strength that much harder.
Well, there's always a premier product, right? Like with kettlebells, you can always tell when someone's just doing an also ran where they just come up with, kettlebells are hot, let's just throw one out there, and then the handles are too close to the ball of the bell, so it's not comfortable at all for those of us who know how to grip a kettlebell, how to actually utilize kettlebells, and then
or even the mold is like, even the mold, they split it in half. So, I mean, they pretty much have it right at the handle. So they start breaking apart at the handles, or they start rusting at the handles, and then it breaks, because they didn't get the molding right.
I mean, there's so many kettlebells, you can't even clean it properly because of the way the way the handle is so close to the ball of the bell. So you can't even get your full hand into it where it's in that 45-degree angle along your palm, that comfortable position. And then,
it's always funny, Mike, when people see these, I call them novelty bells, when you start seeing the gorilla bells and all the kabuki mask bells and all this other stuff or whatever. Like, hey, Sensei, what do you think about this? I'm like, okay, that's good if you're just going to do squats and cleans. I said, but you try snatching that bad boy, and especially you try to do it for time. Yeah, good luck, with your wrist. And, if you're going to actually do clean with good technique, good luck with that. But if you're pressing, maybe. Yeah, it's good. But squatting, swings.
Those bells that you mentioned, those are not for snatches. Those are to look cool in your living room,
Right.
Exactly. It's good to keep my door open, when I'm like loading stuff up. Put it on your desk like, oh, that's cool.
Right.
But, exactly. Or, bashing a burglar's head in with it or something like that. That's about it, man.
But then with kettlebells, we have the competition style bells or the pro grade ones. And once you've used those, you realize, wow, this is the standard right here because they feel so comfortable, right? And then it's hard to go back to any other bell after you get used to those. So I think with the Macebell, yours is probably a similar thing where someone may try someone else's and they're going, oh, okay, this is how it's supposed to be. And then they come across yours somehow. They're like, well, wait a minute, this is totally different.
No, you really, I'm sorry to interrupt because I'm just so excited because you really actually hit something on the head. And a lot of it has been the branding. So, we did really deliberately because, we've got polyurethane on the end. We've got crinkle coat on it. This is it's Lexus. And the problem is not everybody can afford a Lexus. I get it. But you're right. It is just, there's more work and more craftsmanship and more stuff put into our one, which is interesting because, and I'm not like too egotistical to say, but I haven't seen a mace come out that's better than ours. And ours was the first on the market. So actually what we're trying to do is to expand out of the Lexus market and also touch some of those people in the Toyota market. And so we are I'm talking with Otis, and we are making a lower end Macebell that probably won't have the polyurethane. We're still kind of in the design phases, but it'll be a heck of a lot cheaper than the premium Macebell that we have been selling, hoping just to get people at least the right dimensions and the right length and weights and stuff like that.
Now, do you have the Macebells that you can actually like add water to add weight to it or sand or something like that where you can adjust the weight of it?
No.
Where they're hollowed out?
No, because it's just, would you want to fill your kettlebell with water? I mean, it's like, okay, this sounds really cool, but this is a device that's designed to be moved through space, and water is just like not a good idea for ballast, you know?
I asked because a buddy of mine actually gave me a mace bell. Well, not a mace bell, but a mace, as a gift or whatever. And it had it was one of the adjustable ones where you could add water to it. But it's funny because I've never done it. And he asked me, he's like, hey man, did you add water to it? I was like, just something about that it didn't seem like a good idea. And the way the water sloshes around. So when I'm swinging that thing behind me or whatever, I don't need that vibration going on. And like I say, interrupting that centrifugal force that you were talking about. So I was like, just something about that just never sat right with me, and just, the fact that you got something inside this piece of iron or whatever else, and you're just hoping that water, when it goes over your head, is not going to go out, over time or something like that. And we're talking about elements here. We're talking about iron. We're talking about metal, and you're adding water to this. So what are we doing to the durability and the longevity of this product when you start adding these two elements that don't really like each other?
Or sand. I mean,
yeah.
Sand, exactly.
Well, sand can be a real disaster. It reminds me of the good old days after I read Dinosaur Training, and I think everyone who read that book made their own homemade sandbag. And the first time I threw it overhead, the whole thing split in half, and I took a sand shower. Yeah. Right there. Fortunately, I was outside. It wouldn't have been fun to clean that up indoors.
Oh no.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's people out there that like that, and that's awesome, and I'm glad that there's that need is being fulfilled for them. But yeah, from a design standpoint,
some people just love making shit, right? Like they'll see your Macebell and be like, oh man, I bet I could go to Home Depot and put together my own one. There's always going to be that person.
To be honest, it's not that hard, because it's funny if you go, I mean, because ours are expensive. I mean, I can't get around that. They are expensive, and it is a commitment, but you only really need one, in my opinion. You only need the 10 kilo, and ours should last you for life.
What would be the benefits of a Macebell? Let's say someone doesn't do any combat sports. They do deadlift, squats, they work out, they do sprints. And where would a Macebell fit into a traditional or standard workout like that?
Well, so what you're going to find the benefit of the Macebell is and I don't like to use the term, but it is circular movement. Mm-hmm. In addition to grip strength. In addition to stabilize your muscles and all that, because your entire body has to tense as the weight shifts. Say you're doing a 360 with the Macebell, your weight shifts from your right foot to your left foot as the 10 kilos spinning through space shifts as well. So yeah, you're engaging a lot of kind of unusual muscles, and people, I think, don't understand the benefit, because it isn't like your typical Arnold Schwarzenegger bodybuilding thing. But I think a lot of the benefits are very, very congruent. Similar benefits in a more broad sense to kettlebells. So obviously grip strength. We also, the way that we design our programs, now obviously people can do it any way they want. And we had some strength athletes, they were making 100-pound Macebells and stuff. I'm just like, you guys are insane. I don't even understand the point of that, but hey, whatever. Just because I'm not into it doesn't mean it's not cool. So
people always think more is better, right? You see these 200-pound kettlebells. Come on, what are you going to do with that?
Or you see 5 and 10-pound Indian clubs, and dude, and you hand someone a 1-pound, Indian club, and it's just 350-pound lineman. He's like, well, what am I? It feels like a toothpick to him. I'm like, dude, the point is, you're not here to get a workout and lift weights here. This is for shoulder mobility. Right. So you want to, we're working on a very small muscle here. I don't care how big you are. Your shoulders are still some of the smallest muscles on your body, buddy. So we're not sitting here trying to go for a full-on shoulder blasting workout, right?
Yeah, you're not trying to get a pump when you do Indian clubs. You're not like, well, man, this is gonna make my rear delts way bigger when I swing this around. Come on.
Well, and I'm glad Sincere brings that up, because, one of the really nice things is running the shoulder through the range of motion with the Macebell. So you're really getting to a lot of these attachment tendons and things like that just never really get worked, and you get them from a bunch of different angles. But the other thing I think that's common between kettlebell lifting and the Macebell is also cardio, because typically I was doing an online certification more as a way to get the word out, and it was free. I was like, hey, just send me a video of you doing actually these exercises, I'm cool. You don't have to pay me to be in RKC or anything like that. Just let's do this and get people who can do this sport. And what the minimum was, among other things, but 100 nonstop consecutive swings of the Macebell, right? So, you do that 100 kettlebell snatches or something, your heart's going to be going.
Oh yeah.
And it's similar. So we don't quite have the full range of motion, at least in the 360 exercise that we required doing 100, but it's pretty grueling to throw out 100 if you're new to Macebells. And so that was kind of our litmus, our standard. And it worked out well. I think people are realizing, for me, I'm in a very fortunate position where if the Macebell doesn't sell, I still eat. I just kind of, it was just, it was like a good thing that happened to me, and I happened to be involved in the process heavily. And so in that regard, it's awesome. But I'm not trying to make it a tool that you can use for everything. I think of it personally, very specifically for combat athletes, frankly, and maybe that's part of it is why it's not bigger, is I haven't tried to push it and find the applications, but I'm just like a super wrestler.
Well, maybe you just need to be more dishonest about the benefits, and that way you get a big brow.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
You need to open.
Come on, man. People,
I hear there's
people like make believe. People like stories.
Like, is this good for soccer? Man. Oh yeah, tennis, you got it. Basketball, damn right.
Sex, hell yeah.
There's money in that dishonesty game. I got it.Maybe I should try it.
Yeah.
Well, there's also money in the honesty game. It's just a much longer run approach. Sometimes people come out and they go, okay, I'm gonna make as much money as I can in 3 years, and then my reputation is gonna be so shot, I'm done. So I better maximize it.
You were talking about it right there with Slayer, dude. Like that's what I'm going for.
Yes.
I want to blow up and be a super group or what. I just would rather put this out there, make it something for people to do, and build that hardcore following of people who get it, and I don't know. It's just a taste thing, I guess,
Yeah. What else do you do under this scientific wrestling umbrella?
Well, so Macebell, that kind of took a life on its own, but I did bring it in under scientific wrestling. And scientific wrestling is this company that I started back in 2003. It really didn't start going like to where people knew or there was anything interesting about it other than just me busting my ass behind the scenes. But it didn't really get going until about 2006. But we're basically a training organization, and our very existence is owed to the fact that MMA is so crazy trendy and huge. I mean, I've been involved with this. I was at the second UFC in Denver at Mammoth Gardens in 1994. So I've seen this sport like from when it was like trailer park versus sumo wrestler versus whatever, like video games, like Street Fight.
Yeah, some of those early UFCs are quite entertaining, man.
It was like the WWE. You're just like, wait a minute. It's like, look at these matchups.
400-pound guy fighting a 140-pounder.
And he beats the 400-pound guy.
Yeah.
Like, what?
It was highly entertaining.
You can't watch a car crash happen, and that's
exactly.
So I just have always been interested with the idea of wrestling being relevant to mixed martial arts. And so, I started this company, and basically what we've done is I'm a bit of a nerd. I've got a master's degree in financial math. I've written a bunch of books and all this other stuff. And I have an interest in this old, obscure style of wrestling. It was like at its peak of popularity in the United States between the Civil War and World War I. And it was called catch-as-catch-can wrestling. You had Teddy Roosevelt practicing it. You had it was huge. It was bigger than boxing, bigger than baseball at that time. But then, the promoters got greedy and they started fixing the matches, and it became the bodybuilding feather boa thing we got with WWE now. But there was these guys who went underground, and honestly, that style, catch-as-catch-can, also splintered off. So the pro style became this worked thing that looks like WWE we have now, but it was a legit contest back in the day. But then another group splintered off and said, hey, okay, we're not going to try to make money with this. We love the wrestling for what it is, but the same way judo took out the dangerous holds of jiu-jitsu so they could make a sport of judo, they took out the dangerous submission holds of catch wrestling, catch as catch can wrestling, and it became amateur, well, what we know as freestyle wrestling today that you see in the Olympics. So, but then there was also another strain. There was like this third strain. So there was the pro wrestling WWE strain. There was the amateur wrestling strain. And then there was this third strain, which in particular fascinated me. And it was these guys who did both. They did the amateur wrestling and the pro wrestling, but they knew like the old style of submissions and takedowns from this sport. And I just sought out all the
Josh
guys
Barnett
that I thought would know this. And that includes Karl Gotch and Billy Robinson, who right. Later became my friends, which is like so crazy to me. Yeah. It's like having a guy who plays high school football all of a sudden get like Joe Namath as like one of his good friends. It was like mind-blowing, like anyway. So we basically became an organization to promote and teach, and we give travel the world giving seminars and stuff like that. To sell DVDs on, little wrestling techniques here and there. So it's an educational organization that does seminars and information products and things like that. Scientificwrestling.com.
And you've had Josh Barnett consult with you. I know you're friends with him. You've had Frank Shamrock work with you guys in some capacity. How did that all come together?
Yeah. Josh is like a big example of what you just said about the guys who did, the more ancient, traditional way of doing catch as catch can, and then take it into that professional wrestling, WWE style wrestling. He's like a big guy as far as doing that. So yeah, how'd you guys meet?
Yeah, so it's interesting. Like at least Frank, anyway. As I was kind of studying, because I just wanted to learn it, and nobody was teaching it back then. And he learned from Minoru Suzuki learned from Gotch and Fujiwara, which is like about as pure of a line of catch as catch can as you can get. So I was like, sweet. So Frank has just been really helpful, and he's always been very open, and he's just a great guy. Frank is every interaction I've had with him, he's just above board and a super nice guy.
Yeah.
Josh is kind of an interesting story because, he's been in this game forever. I mean, he's been around since forever. And it's because he started when he was a kid, and he's still young, and he's been around forever, and he's been consistently ranked.
Yeah. It's really impressive.
Heavyweight. Like he's a really great athlete and great fighter. And he makes no bones about it. I mean, I don't know what they call it, but like the Japanese fanboys or whatever. I mean, he plays otaku or whatever. He's a very smart guy, and he had some really interesting esoteric things in fighting he was into. And one of those was catch wrestling. And back then, like, the community was so small because nobody knew what it was. And so because we ran in the same circles, I just kind of got to know him. He was super friendly, super smart. And then one day he knew that I was friends with Karl Gotch, and he wanted to get an introduction because he wanted to learn stuff from him, And so I made the introduction, and man, Josh paid me back like 1,000-fold because I'm sure there's a million people in Japan he could have got, somehow to make the introduction with Karl. But for me, in exchange, he introduced me to, later on, I mean, I don't think it was a quid pro quo or anything like that, but he introduced me later on to Billy Robinson, who for 7 years, was like my mentor, and I toured the United States with him and assisted him in coaching. And I mean, he was a member of my family. I mean, I named my youngest kid after him and stuff. So it's interesting how, I feel like I'm like the luckiest guy on the planet because a lot of this just kind of organically happened. I mean, I put myself out there and stuff, but just fortunate that these guys.
Well, that's the key point there. So you actually put yourself out there, because how are these people supposed to know about you? A lot of people are going, oh, I wish I knew all these people. Well, how are they supposed to know who you are? If you're not out there, what are you doing to attract those people to you?
It's worked out really well because, I mean, we were talking about the Macebell came out of this scientific wrestling because Karl showed me his gata, and the Macebell is this big, you type in Macebell into YouTube and you get like crazy amount of return hits, or Google it. It's like insane. And, on the wrestling side, we've been able to do some actually like historic things. I was able to ghostwrite Billy Robinson's autobiography to get his story out there as he wanted it told. And we actually started the first really, competitive catch wrestling matches with my tournaments. The King of Catch Wrestling is what we call it. And That's been going on since 2007. We've been touring with these training camps. It's been with Billy until he passed away about 2 years ago. And then again, a mutual friend of mine, it was really weird. Like a month before Billy's passing, I get this phone call from Wade Chalice. And again, unfortunately, with wrestling, people may never have heard of that name, but this is the guy who holds the Guinness Book of World Records for the most wins and pins in all of wrestling, the record for the most wins over national champions, the record for the wins over international champions. This guy was like a 7th or a 9th degree black belt in Sambo when Fila used to give away such belt system. This guy's like a grappling genius. He was an All-American in judo, an All-American in folk style, and in Greco-Roman. I mean, he's just out of control, right? So somehow, I mean, he and I get to be friends, and this is great. But a month before Billy's passing, it was weird. He called me up and he's like, you know what? I want to start doing seminars, and I want to start hitting the MMA market. And I just was like, oh, that's awesome. But I was kind of like, I got this thing with Billy, and then Billy passed away suddenly, and I was like, wow, man, this is crazy timing. And I talked to Wade, and he loves catch wrestling because catch wrestling is like submission grappling. It's just there's a pin. So MMA, for example, you can win with a submission or a knockout, right? Everybody gets it. It's not complicated. Right. Well, catch as catch can, same thing. You win with a submission or a pin. It's actually still the same kind of rules that WWE does in their theater, stuff. So anyway, Wade ended up taking over for Billy and the last 2 years, and it's been amazing. So I just pinch myself, man. I'm like with the best of the best. These guys sitting there just absorbing it at every seminar like a sponge. It's like the greatest thing in the world. And this year we're doing our so we're actually set up a tour. If people are interested, it's called the website's pinandsubmit.com. Like 3 words all together, pinandsubmit.com. And we got both Josh Barnett and Wade to show up at our 3-day training camp. So it's going to be half Wade and half Josh. I mean, I'm like over the moon, just personally, selfishly.
Yeah.
It's gonna be cool. Now is this course, this seminar, is it specifically just for combat athletes, or what about like the everyday person, just the person that just wants to, I don't know, get up their grappling skills?
Yeah, it's for everybody. I mean, I've had everybody at one of these training camps. It blow your mind. Daniel Bryan from the WWE, the yes guy. He came to one.
Yeah.
Well, I actually think he may have came to a seminar, not a training camp. But Daniel Bryan's come to our trainings. Randy Couture flew me and Billy out to his gym to give a training. So you'll have these kind of higher level guys. Brandon Ruiz, who is the FILA World Grappling Games champion, comes to ours. Shayna Baszler, who's a top women's MMA, comes. So we get these like high level people, but then we get the guys that are like 40, and instead of spending their money on a Harley Davidson, they spend their money on these cool experiences and just push themselves. It's like a thing, and it works out for everybody. Our trainers are not. They're actually kind of intellectuals, but Josh is intellectual. Wade is super intellectual. Billy was intellectual. So they're not bullies. They're not there. They're serious about it. Like, don't come and half-ass it. I mean, any coach will tell you that, but anybody can come as long as you're there to work and you're serious. Yeah.
Now, have you worked with any current besides Josh, of course, any current UFC fighters with either the training camps or the Macebell, like one-on-one specifically?
Well, when we went out to England, we have a UFC guy, Danny Mitchell, who's come to some of our stuff. Josh Thompson, who is a old pride fighting guy and a Bellator fighter now. Yeah. Josh Thompson. Who else, man? We had Jeffrey Hunt Lawless, who is a freestyle seniors national champ, come. Who else? I mean, man, it's been 7 years, so I know I'm forgetting somebody, and they're going to be pissed off I'm going to hear about it. We've just had some really like amazing people come.
But your main business model is promoting these events, selling the Macebell.
Business model. Even the Macebell is tertiary for me. My passion, what I care about. I know I could probably make more money doing other stuff, but what I'm like into, and I really it's not work, is the training camps. I love that. I just, because I'm sitting there learning from these like high level guys, and then the other thing that's so great from my perspective, I mean, I've been to every camp, you know, I mean, I assist and all this other stuff. But the thing that's like the coolest thing for me, besides helping out these guys financially and giving them good money or whatever, you know, but the thing that's really satisfying is like, you know, people when they came out of the Matrix, remember when that Matrix came out the first time?
Yeah.
And everybody was like, whoa, it was like they were tripping on acid. I mean, that's what it's like after people come out of one of these camps, because these guys are like fucking amazing, you know?
Yeah.
So to me, that's like the coolest thing is to see that like light bulb shit where they're like, oh my God, I cannot wait to get back to my gym and kick everybody's ass, especially that one asshole who always beats me or what, you know what I mean? Because they got this bag of tricks.
Right.
To me, that is so fucking cool. That is like, that makes it all worth it to me. And we get a lot of that. I mean,
do you get a lot of people coming back, taking the future other events or the same event over again?
Yeah, like we actually designed. I made the pricing structure to incentivize people coming back because, you know, if they go act like they're shit and what they're full of it. I mean, it takes years to get good at something, you know. And so the first camp is definitely expensive. I mean, there's no joke about that. But I mean, these are top tier guys, and I got to pay them what they're worth. So, you know, you come to the first camp, and for example, like during early bird, it's not that crazy. I mean, a CrossFit cert is fucking more expensive than training with these fucking legends. And I mean, this shit'll save your life. You'll learn how to defend
that doesn't
yourself.
surprise me. That doesn't surprise me one bit, though.
Shitty fucking kip ups or something. I mean, it's like.
Yeah, there was. I think I'm not quite sure who started it, but I know John Duquesne with Dragon Door was one of the first guys to really proliferate really expensive training courses, fitness courses. I mean, because before that, I mean, fitness courses would be $30 for a weekend or something like that, right? It was really inexpensive. Then all of a sudden it was $1,000 and people were willing to pay it. And then when other people saw how much certain organizations could charge, they're like, oh, this is great. We're going to charge $1,000 too. Or we charge $500 when we used to charge $50 because that's going to be in comparison cheaper than what's out there.
And don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm not like a communist, or I don't have a problem with communists, but I'm not. I like money, and it's like make as much as you can. Just be honest about it and make sure people don't have buyer's remorse. But what we do is like, so say right now for the 3 days of training with these guys, and we limit camp to like 10 to 15 guys, depending on where we're at. But usually it's around 10 guys. So you're getting like hands-on 3 days with these pro fucking guys, these top tier guys. And it's $900 for 3 days of training. And the second camp you come to is half of that. It's $450. And then your third camp is $225. So you, from then on, if you've invested in the system or whatever, it is definitely front loaded on fees, but you can come for 3 days of training with these guys, $225. I mean, you're not going to get a deal like that.
Oh, that's a cool tier system right there. And it does incentivize people to come back. Yeah. And I don't think there's anything wrong with charging a lot for courses either. As long as you deliver and people leave happy, then it's all good.
And like you said, you have these legends there. So it's like, actually, when you actually really break it down and look at all the years of experience that these guys have and what they've invested into that, even at $900, you're still coming out on top on this. It's still a steal for you. And that's the thing I think a lot of people tend to overlook. They just look at price and like, oh my God, this is so pricey. And I'm like, okay, pay attention to what's going on here. Look at who's teaching you and how much money they've invested in the experience and knowledge that they have in all those years, and also the things they've sacrificed to bring this to you and try to, and give you the best, quality instruction that they can fit in 8 hours each day. So by the time it's done, you got 24 hours of this intense training if they're good instructors, and that's what, if that's what they're going to do, and not just sit there and give a lecture fest like a lot of people do to rip people off. Well, so just,
it's interesting because so the guy who is probably second under me with regards to most time spent with these coaches and all that, he's a friend of mine. His name's Sam Crescent. And so he's an assistant coach. I know that he's seen this stuff and he can actually assist and knows how to do it. And he's been to a million of these. So, but I'll tell you something. So here's a guy, he was a high school wrestler. I think he went to school in Hawaii or something, gets a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Just a high level guy. He's really he's well respected and all this other stuff. Anyway, so here he is, he's running the school. Well, one of his, he teaches a lot of cops, right? These private lessons for self-defense. These cops come over and learn the jiu-jitsu. Well, one of his clients came to one of our Billy Robinson camps and went back and just started beating everybody. Like, and this guy was not doing that beforehand. And so Sam was like, whoa, man, what the heck happened over that weekend? And after that, Sam came to every single one. And that's, to me, that's the juice for me. Is it's like, it's really cool because, you know, before, for example, I don't know, I don't know you guys' experience if you've done jiu-jitsu or anything like that, but you know, when you wrestle somebody and or you grapple somebody and they've never done jiu-jitsu and you're just like, it's awesome. Your athletic level doesn't matter because you just know these tricks they don't know. Well, the second they learn those tricks, that's when the athleticism comes in because it's like, who wants it more? Right now, nobody knows this stuff. And it's for me, it's awesome to just see everybody get just turned on when they get touched by these guys. You know, they're like, no, move your foot here, move it an inch this way. And they're like, oh my gosh. Anyway, as you can see, I think
it's interesting that you brought up that, you know, when you brought up about cops and they were coming in and training as well. Like, you know, I'm a personal defense instructor now. And one of the biggest things that we always talk about, you know, is going beyond going for your weapon right off the bat. You know, the last thing basically pulling out a gun should be the last resort. And there are a lot of times where you don't necessarily need to bring that out. It can be stopped in other ways. Yeah. And so people tend to forget about gunfighting. The key word in a gunfight is actually the fight part. They tend to forget about that. They just hear gun and think that's what I'm going to use. So when you're going against somebody on the street or something like that, you know, if they recognize that you have a gun as well, so now you're in a wrestling match and you're pretty much in the same position that you would be if you were in an actual wrestling match. You know, you're both sitting there, you're cheek to cheek, you're grabbing each other, you're both going for each other's weapon or whatever else. So, you know, my question is to you, is this is this a way for, like I said, the common everyday person to come in and learn self-defense and apply those skills that you guys are teaching in your seminars, you know, to their everyday training as far as personal defense?
Well, and I think, you know, we actually offer a military and law enforcement discount, like a 15% off the price of camp, because here's the thing, and I love Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So there's people out there that want to create problems where there are none. So let's just get this out there. I love Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It is awesome. It kicks ass. I've practiced it. I know people who do. I have nothing but respect for it. But sometimes there are other things that are not in the canon of Jiu-Jitsu that are maybe even better in other situations. So, for example, Jiu-Jitsu, especially Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, by and large, of course, this varies with different practitioners. I'm just covering my ass here so people don't get pissed off. But the fact is that a lot of it ends up with your legs around the guy in the guard position if you're being offensive.
Right.
I am sorry, but in the street with a weapon, you do not want your hips near the other man's hips so he can grab your weapon. You don't want to be on your back because you don't know if there's multiple assailants. Gravity works better for the guy on top in these kind of situations because he can bring trash cans down on your head or bounce your head like a basketball.
Well, you're going for an arm lock and he reaches and gets his knife and he's stabbing you in the chest while you're trying to get him to tap out.
No, you don't need that, dude. You start biting. Just have your guys put on red lipstick. Not because you're a sadistic bastard and want to blackmail later, but have them put on lipstick and wrestle. And then they come back and they have red all over their body. That's every place they could have been bit.
Right.
So it's like, I mean, that game is that's a whole crazy different level game, and different rules are going to get the edge. Yeah. And, you know, some of the old school, like Sun Tzu and West Point military strategies make sense. Like, take the high ground. Like, don't be underneath. You have the strategic high ground if you're standing and the guy is on the ground. So, you know, that's a long-winded way of saying, yeah, a lot of people, a lot of police have really enjoyed this because there's a lot of work with hammer locks, positions that get people into some sort of non-lethal situation. You know what I mean? I mean, we've already got an epidemic of, like, you know, people getting shot without a trial and without a jury and stuff by law enforcement. Yeah. And I'm a fan of law enforcement. I mean, I almost became LAPD and all that, but there's clearly something going on. And learning how to restrain people, how to pin people without bruising them or, you know, bringing a lawsuit on your department, that's valuable in my book.
Yeah. Yeah, but, you know, I'm even speaking as far as, you know, non-law enforcement, non-military, you know, folks every day. Like I said, it's getting to the point now. Look, let's just be honest. If a situation arises And how long is it going to take for law enforcement to get there?
Dude.
If you're in a situation where you have some criminal trying to accost you, rape you, attack you, rob you, kill you.
I'm not telling you anything you don't know, Sincere, but also when you do call law enforcement, they show up. If you happen to have a different or darker pigmentation, you could be innocent, but shit could like roll against you too. So
in certain situations, especially if you haven't been trained to, there's going to be situations. There's going to be some bad apples in the bunch, but there's also certain protocols that you take to make sure that, even when you're making that call to 911, there are certain things you can do to kind of lessen that situation from happening.
Right.
And, that's one of the things we train and try to train people on right off the bat. If you're sitting there, you pulling a guy's trying to take, rob you or whatever, and you shoot the guy, and you call 911, you need to describe yourself as well and say, I'm the victim of the crime. I look like this. I'm dressed like this. I am illegally, carrying. So the more and more information you give, the less likely some stuff is going to happen. Yeah. So that's the one thing about it.
That should be taught in these self-defense courses because, it's funny. I always ask these like guys who are like 1,000 times better than I am or I'll ever be, like these Wade and Josh Barnetts. And I asked Fujiwara one time, what do you think about self-defense or whatever? And he said, listen, that's all cool. And you do, wrestling's great because you're going to learn how to handle yourself and how to control another human body and stuff. But I mean, ultimately, if it's a fight, and here's a guy who, by the way, the godfather, the Yakuza, the mafia in Japan, the godfather is called Kumacho. Well, Kumacho calls Fujiwara Kumacho. So this is a guy who's like for real, right?
Right.
And he always told me, I asked him about self-defense, and he's like, and again, he cornered Inoki and like trained, Frank Shamrock and all these other guys. But my point is that I asked him about self-defense, and he said, listen, wrestling's good because you're going to do better than a non-wrestler. But, if you really want to manage your risk, you need to get a good pair of running shoes or,
Yeah, sometimes sprinting's the best self-defense you can apply. It's like, man, this looks like 3 overweight attackers coming here. I bet I could run myself out of the situation.
Right.
Did we just lose him again? I think we lost him.
No, I'm here.
Oh, you're still here? Okay.
Yeah.
We'll keep talking, man. You're the guest.
Oh, well. So anyway, yeah, I mean, I love the sport, and the whole wrestling thing has been really good to me, and it's got me great friends like you and new friends like Sincere and all that, and it's been a hell of a ride, and I'm just really grateful because, man, I mean, it's just crazy to think because it's like I have all these other things I've done, but it's like wrestling just keeps popping up, in my life, and I'm just really grateful to be able to eke by a living working with people that are also supporters of the sport.
It's cool when you follow your interests and stay honest to your interests as you have, because I think about all the strength coaches that I was a big fan of before I got into the business, and I know all of those people now, and they know who I am, and I've worked with most of those people.
Right.
So I can relate to what you're saying quite a bit, because there was a time where I was just reading their books over and over again, and I didn't have any inclination that I would someday know who these people are or work with these people. Right. And that's happened throughout my fitness career. So it's a lot of times you're sitting there, you're like, man, I can't believe this is happening. And that's a cool feeling. That's something that a lot of people should pursue.
Well, and to know guys like you that are, so on top of what they do and are really trying to make the physical game a smart game, that the physical game doesn't mean that you can't really apply some science and really make it work. I mean, that's what I love about the great thing about the internet is you can find these little pockets of people like that, like you and Sincere and stuff. It's great.
Yeah, the internet can definitely be used as a tool, like this galvanizing tool, where you can create these mastermind type situations. Yeah. That's really what the whole point of this
without having to pay $10,000 to be in a mastermind with somebody who really doesn't even know you or care about you.
Right.
Another one of the biggest scams have been going on in this internet marketing world.
Yeah, people don't really understand the whole concept of mastermind as it was conveyed in Think and Grow Rich, right? It was similar-minded people getting together and supporting each other's goals. It's not something where there's a membership fee and you're paying to talk to these people and all that. So now people are trying to create mastermind groups where you're paying someone a lot of money, and then you'll get a little bit snippet of advice. It's like this wasn't meant to be some commercialized tool where you're just making money off of people's naivete.
Right. It's like everybody wants a guru or something, and it's like, you know, I'm totally with you on the original definition, because you're just getting together with people who are like-minded and trading information is a mutually beneficial thing, instead of one person as a guru and everybody throwing.
Well, that's the key word, mutual beneficial. Sometimes people are just leeches, right? They want to meet up with you, and it's just them bombarding you. It's like, well, what are you offering that person?
Right. In that case, it's okay to charge them, in my opinion.
Exactly. That's called a consultation at that
right.
point. You know, or that's a course, that's a seminar.
Right.
You know, it may be one-on-one or whatever else, but that's not a mastermind. You know, a mastermind is like, okay, these like-minded individuals, but you're also trading ideas, but you're also keeping each other accountable. So you want these folks to you want them to do well. So therefore, when you're being successful, you're not the one that's the stereotypical being the guy that's lonely at the top. Okay, because, one thing about it, there's only a minute few that actually push the boundaries, push the envelope to get to be successful. But the thing about it, I don't care what anyone says, at the end of the day, you don't want to be the last man standing, the only one there. You're just sitting there like, oh, well, there's no one here. But at the same time, you don't want a bunch of leeches also sucking, just trying to suck
you don't want to be a
dry.
nuisance networker where you're just calling people up saying, oh, I wanted to get together with you to pick your brain about something. I hate that phrase, pick your brain.
I pick my ass. How about that?
You're not going to pick my brain or any other part of me, buddy. That's right.
Well, and I think that's what athletes have to do. You have to at least be business minded enough to think about, you know what? I've spent flipping years and broken bones and gallons of sweat learning this shit. And I'm excited about it. I mean, I love it, but I got to learn to zip my lip and make a living out of it, because I can't push my body that long forever. You know, I mean, I hit 40, I'm going to start breaking down. So
we were just talking about this a couple episodes ago.
So how do you stay in the game? And, you know, you hope that the young guys coming up aren't just a bunch of meatheads that just want an outlet for aggression, but they're looking at this as a real thing and as a knowledge institution and kind of like, you know, like Native American knowledge, you know, or like how Ireland was for like 900 years under British rule, where it's like word of mouth. You know, you pass it from one generation to another, and it's like a rite of passage, and there's this information, and each generation adds something or tweaks it, but the kernel stays the same, you know, like, I don't know. I mean, I got a bunch of weird ideas. Like I say, they probably stopped me from making more money, but whatever.
Yeah, it's not always easy to find the balance. You know, on one hand, you don't want to give everything away for free, where, like you said, you can't make a living doing what you enjoy. And at the same time, right, some people tend to monetize everything they do to the point where it's just overly pedantic, to say the least. Yeah,
one of the people that we both know from back in the day, I mean, he was selling people how to take a shit or something from an ancient Chinese kung fu fucking how to take a shit, just $69, and it's like, dude, whoa, seriously.
Come on. Convenient. It was $69
or whatever. I don't know, but dude, like, seriously, you don't need to teach people to take a shit. Your body will do that if you eat enough food. You know, like, you don't. There's no less.
Doing this since day one, actually.
Fuck.
Yeah, that's some serious gut issues right there, and I doubt the solution to those is in that book. And if that's a problem you have, it's time to get a real professional to do some work on. Yeah.
Right.
You don't need some ancient techniques on it. You need some modern techniques on what's going on. I know what you mean, though, and that's what I'm talking about. But we're kind of in the information dissemination age where there's more free information than ever before. And a lot of it's crap, but a lot of it's really good, too. So now the challenge becomes, how do you discern the good from the bad? And I think that's where professional input can be really useful. You can be someone's guide through all of that. And that's something that people should be prepared to pay for, because you're saving someone a lot of time.
Well, I think where it comes in is this, is like, how do you vet the bullshit?
Right.
And usually, at least in athletics, for me, what I found is competition. That's how you determine if somebody's talking shit or not, right? And that's what I liked about the UFC. I mean, they're like, okay, yeah.
That's true, yeah.
Karate, you say the shit, and sumo, you say the shit. Okay, go. Kill each other. And you see who's standing at the end, and you get statistics generated and things like that. And you get like the bullshit stripped away in the moment of competition with two people really working hard to win. And then fortunately, those winners or people who've helped those winners become coaches, and those coaches can help pass on that information so that you can continue that tradition of testing and refining and making sure, stuff's tight and the best. Yeah. There's money in that.
Yeah, that's a good point. There's the truth is always in the performance. And that can be applied to the fitness industry as well. If there's a program on how to improve your deadlift, okay, who's had results with this? What did you get out of this?
Bust out my spreadsheet here. I'm going to do your program. I'll bust out my spreadsheet. My personal best is here. And at the end of 10 weeks, my personal best is here. Did it work as, you could test it.
Yeah, you can quantify those things. You're not going to just say, oh, I felt stronger. I think I lifted more than when I started.
But some people are into that too. Not everybody is into the competition aspect. I mean, I just try to be inclusive, but if people try to bullshit me, I just try to be like, well, I think at least to some people in the world, proof and evidence and backing up claims and stuff. It's easy to make a claim or blame somebody.
Well, I mean, in business as well, right? People come to you and go, oh, this is gonna. We'll easily make this much off of this. It's like, okay, based on what?
Right.
And first of all, whenever someone says easily, right there, they've already lost me because it's nothing. Right. Making money is not easy. Building a business is not easy. Promoting a workshop is not easy. None of this stuff is easy. It's very difficult. In fact, why most people fail at it. So whenever someone says, oh, this is going to be easy. Oh, we'll definitely get 100 people in the room. Based on what? That the fact that you've done that before?
Right.
Or the fact that you just said it.
Yeah, exactly.
You want some The Secret type stuff just because you threw it out there? That's what's going to happen.
Right.
Come on,
man. Yeah, The Secret is great, but that's just the goal setting part, man. You got to fucking do all the work now.
Well, that's the part they left out of the book, right?
So that was the secret. Yeah,
that is the secret.
The secret is not in this book.
That's the next book. Exactly. We want you to read the next book is the hard work aspect. Well, that's what most success seminars rely upon is trying to delude people into believing that you can somehow bypass hard work and suffering to get to your goal. And that's why most people go to these seminars like, man, if I just know this, I can get from point A to point B in this one seamless trajectory. And it just doesn't work that way. I don't care what you know.
Yeah, most of these like seminars and stuff like that, to me, they are the same function as the cheerleaders on the side of the field. Like, okay, yeah, you're motivating me. Okay, awesome.
It's not the cheers that's motivating me.
Right. Yeah, you motivate me.
I know by being third string, you could probably care less about me, so I'm going to bust my ass so I can be first string because that's the guy you're paying attention to.
Right, those shorts are not that short for nothing, man.
There's a reason why you're not there in a turtleneck and some gotcha.
They're not wearing a burqa on the sidelines,
But the thing is it's just prediction, right? Because when it comes down to it, are they going to teach you how to fucking catch a pass? Are they going to teach you how to fucking, like get hit? Like, the fucking cool, awesome. You're getting me like excited. But I'm about to get my ass kicked, and I need some real fucking information here, not just rah-rah.
Well, I mean, if we went to the gym and there's people cheering for you at every workout, that's not going to be useful if you're not applying an effective workout strategy.
Right.
Distracting as hell too.
Like, yeah, exactly.
So I'm trying to get in the zone. Like, come on, you can do it.
Doing your warm up sets. Yeah.
Yeah, you got this, sincere. Like, yeah, I know. I'm warming up.
You made that look easy. It's like, yeah, it's my warm up, man. It's supposed to be easy.
It's 10% of my 1 rep max. What do you expect?
But some of these, like Tony Robbins numbers, like, we're going to walk across hot coals to show you how to break through mental barriers. It's like, okay, the only thing I got out of that is my feet are burning all night.
Well, Tony, that's great if I actually live like in, I don't know, Djibouti or something like that.
Right.
And my car broke down, in the middle of the desert. But seeing that I have shoes, first of all, in a functioning car, I have no reason to walk across some freaking hot coals.
I mean, Mark Phillippi gave me the best advice when it comes to psyching yourself up for maximum weightlifting, right? So deadlift PR, for example. He goes, look, don't go into it thinking that it's going to be easy. Go into it as if this is going to be really difficult, so you're primed, you're focused, you're ready to go. And then when you pull the bar off the ground, if you hit a sticking point, you don't just cave. You don't just give up.
You're not in shock.
Like, well, this was supposed to be easy, and then it isn't, so you just give up immediately. And that's good advice for really anything you do, whether it's starting a business, promoting a seminar, whatever it is, learning a new skill set, going into it as if it's like somehow it's just going to be easy to pull these things off, you're going to be demoralized really fast.
Hey, man, it's like the saying goes, the only time success comes before work is in the dictionary. Okay, so it's not going to be easy. You got to put in the work, man. Right. You got to work your way toward it.
Yeah. Dipshit comes before hard work as well. You know, so.
And dumbass.
So hey, man, what do you have coming on the horizon, Jake?
Well, so this year I'm really kind of pushing this pin and submit training camp with Wade and Josh. We're setting up right now. We've got dates set up in England. We've got dates set up in Denver, in where else? LA.
Whereabouts in England? London?
Yeah, we've got one date in London. We'll probably have another one up in the Midlands, like the middle of the country, in Doncaster.
Yeah, I've taught there before. Cool.
We may have to push that. Right now, that's our lead seminar, but we may actually put that to the end of the seminar. It's just kind of a pain in the butt to get everybody over there. And anyway, so those are the dates. The U.S. dates are firm. We're still kind of thinking about the UK dates. If we're going to do it at the beginning or the end. But anyway, we're in Fort Lauderdale, Denver, and L.A. And we've had interest from like Austin, Texas, and these other places. But you know, I mean, it's expensive. You know, I gotta buy plane tickets, hotel for at least 3 people.
Yeah.
I gotta pay their professional fees. I mean, this stuff is expensive, and you know, it's easy to ask, but nobody wants to, you know, take the financial risk with us. So
no surprise there.
Surprise.
So those are the ones that we got secured. I've already got bookings at all of those. All the U.S. dates are firm. The UK is the ones that we're playing with right now. We may have to push that to like October. But if you go to pinandsubmit.com,
okay.
I mean, just to check out both Josh and Wade's credentials, it's worth 2 seconds because these are just 2 human beings that I don't think that most people, even like smart people in the fight game, they'll know Josh because he's really high profile. But guys like Wade, and I mean, Wade is like, the guy is like a genius. You know what I mean? It's like Isaac Newton or Einstein. It's just amazing. It's just in the physical field. So that's kind of my big thing. I do. Otis over at Torque Athletic, we are, like I mentioned earlier, working on an affordable line of Macebells, starter Macebells, so people can get in, start swinging. And then if they dig it, they can step up to our premium line. It's been the same since 2006. I mean, the design is just outstanding.
And then you have training videos at Scientific Wrestling as well, and there's YouTube clips on the Macebell.
Yeah. So if anybody's interested in learning more about all this weird crap that I kind of went on tangents, and thank you for enduring that, guys. But
we're tangent specialists, man. That's what the show's all about. we encourage tangents.
When you guys were talking all the metal and the bands and all that, the super groups, I knew I'd be okay at the beginning.
A lot of times that's why we do that, because it puts our guest at ease. When they hear how we talk to each other, they're like, okay, this is going to be cool.
Yeah, that was awesome. So, but to just finish up the answer, yeah, scientificwrestling.com, just one word. You go there. We've got, you want to learn how to strangle somebody or break their neck or break their ankles or something.
I have a good friend who might be interested in that part right there.
So, yeah, scientificwrestling.com. And I really appreciate you guys spending the time with me too.
Oh, man, it's great to have you on. It's great to reconnect, man.
Good stuff.
I think we got to get Otis from Torque Athletic on the show too. I haven't talked to that guy in a long time. That'll be really interesting. And we have Frank Shamrock coming back. Actually, coming back. He flaked on us last time. So
I was like, really? Did I miss an episode?
He's coming, and we have him scheduled for May as well. So that'll be cool to connect with him.
Yeah, Frank is a really nice guy. He's a really nice guy. But yeah, Otis would be a great show. He's hilarious too.
Yeah, man, that sounds great. Well, hey, man, thanks again. Great talking to you, and I'm sure we'll reconnect soon.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Thanks a lot, Jay. Take care, man.
Bye-bye.
And that's our friend Jake Shannon over at scientificwrestling.com. Make sure to check out his website. Check out the Macebell. Those seminars sound great, I think.
Yeah, my brain's
Yeah.
So I kept asking, I said, yeah, but the everyday person, I feel like, just from what he's describing, and also just kind of some of the things I've done in my training, where it's like just with gunfighting, and training on that. I see a lot of that could be very beneficial to the everyday citizen. So that's why it got my brain kind of percolating. Yeah. I mean, it's one of the reasons why, I'm going to start training with our good friend, Tim Larkin as well. Actually, I'll be out in Vegas, in May training with him. Yeah. What is this target focus training? And then, the way he's got it set up now is just like, it's not just a one-off seminar. It's like, he had the opportunity where you can come and train pretty much for about a year, many times that they had it. So it's going to be opportunities now where I'll be out in Vegas quite a few times, come out there and train with Tim, just really learning this, man, because I know a lot of this stuff can be very beneficial, not just to myself, but also to people that I work with. And, in
Tim defense. Said he's going to be hosting a Spartacus themed party in your honor.
I'm going to pass on that one, though. That's the night you and I would be,
Well, I mean, that's part of the course this year. You're not going to get your certificate.
I can do it out that piece of paper, man. I'm good. I'll get a certificate. There's a reason why that show is no longer on the air. Okay?
Oh man, that's great. That's cool, man. Tim's an incredible instructor. His courses are great. So that's going to be a lot of fun. That sounds really cool. So, okay, we're going to wrap up with honoring some VIPs that have been going above and beyond to support us. So just a few people that have been using that coupon code LLA to get 10% off the best nutrition supplements around, and also some of my information products. We have James Walks, Brandon Dirks, William Garcia, John Else, Ryan Probst, Daryl Devana, Scott Horner, Dave Sullivan, Jeff Crosley, John Rosen, and Robert Tappan. They've all been using that coupon code LLA to get 10% off. Great products at MikeMahler.com. And anything going on with you, man?
Yeah, man, same thing. You can head over to newwarriortraining.com, use that same coupon code. Big shout out to Michael Barra, who just got his Bolsitas for his Chorreador. I know some of you guys, bought Chorreadors early in the game, and, just to kind of quote Mike, I'm pretty sure your Bolsitas look like, how did you describe it, Mike?
My Chorreador sock looked like it was in some Kenyan village for 10 years. I was looking at it one day. I was like, man, I need to hit up Sincere for some new ones. And thank you, by the way, for getting those out. That was a nice. That was a nice change. I actually made some coffee this morning using a blend that a good friend of mine made. He came out with his own coffee recently. He's coming on the show next month. Paul Tabone, he has a coffee called Angry Joe, and you can check it out at angryjoe.co. So it's not .com, it's just angryjoe.co. And really interesting guy. He's a very elite power lifter. There's a clip of him squatting 700 pounds hands-free on YouTube. So he unracked 700 pounds, puts his hands down by his side, so it's just a bar balanced on his back, does a full squat, bam. The guy's a beast, man. But he's come out with some of his own coffee formulas. He has one that's just coffee. You'll really like the coffee. He describes himself as a coffee snob. I'm like, okay, well, we have to get you on the show because I have a good friend. My good friend and my co-host is a coffee snob.
Like, I happen to know one of those type of people.
You guys will have a good conversation.
I know one of those people.
You guys will have a good conversation. So he has some coffee that's just straight up coffee. Then he has other ones that are infused with other things like him bean and one with branched chain amino acids. Really interesting stuff. So we'll talk to him more next month.
So yeah, folks, you can go over there and go to New Warrior Training and get your Chorreador and get a 3-pack of Bolsitas while you're there. So therefore, you at least cover for about a year if you take care of them. So, and I have all the instructions actually over there on the page, on the purchase page, how to care for your Bolsita and your Chorreador and all that. So you don't have to sit there and use the same one for like 2 years or whatever. And actually, I would suggest against that because you'll start changing the quality of the flavor of your coffee, when you do that. But taking care of it, like washing the Bolsitas, is really, really easy, man. All you just need is some water, some warm water, and some salt.
Okay.
It's just really that simple. Yeah, and I suggest, like, if you use it on the regular, like I'll clean mine pretty much. Like sometimes I might use mine like 2 or 3 times during the day.
Yeah, me too.
Because I'll just make it by the cup. So therefore, by the end of the day, I'll go ahead and clean it. I'll clean the Bolsita at the end of the day because otherwise it'll catch up, and then you start tasting different flavors. Like, wait a minute, this is not Kenya 2A anymore.
Yeah,
like,
you have coffee residue from something last year.
Exactly. And don't get me wrong. I mean, those oils that tend to build up also do enhance the flavor of your coffee as well. But after a while, it's time to change that oil. So it's thinking that oil's going to get a little funky about a year or two later. So yeah, so I had those over there, and if you notice, Mike, the size of them changed a little bit because there's a new batch of Chiriadors coming out, and so those are not as tall, but they're not as small as well. So therefore, one of the biggest issues with the old Bolsitas, they were so long. So if someone had a tall mug of coffee, because some people really need their coffee. They want to almost have a 40 ounce of coffee in the morning. So a lot of times, it would sit there and the Bolsita would just dip all the way through the cup. And so therefore, taking the cup away from the Bolsita, it'd make a big mess or whatever else. So it's a lot better with this size of the Bolsitas I have now, because it also makes sure that you get your dosage just right as far as how much coffee you put in there instead of because, people think like, well, since there's nothing wrong with adding more. So if they have that big giant Bolsita, they think like, let me go ahead and add about 4 tablespoons of coffee. I'm like, whoa, that's a lot of freaking coffee. Well, I had enough room for it. Why not? No, you don't. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Okay, just remember that. So yeah, man. So you got that, and you got the DVDs, you got the ebooks. All that stuff is over at newwarriortraining.com. And also, our VIPs over at patreon.com who support our show on a monthly basis with a donation of $5 or more. We appreciate that. You can do the same by heading over to patreon.com/LLA podcast. And last but not least, head over to iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, SoundCloud, hell, even on YouTube, because the podcast is over there as well. Go there. You can rate, review, leave comments, share the episode, all that great stuff. Get the word out there. Let the folks know about the LLA show. There you go.
All right, that'll do it. We'll be back next week with another great guest. Take care, everyone.
Take care, folks.